Hello and welcome to our channel. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Amy and I live in a tiny house on wheels full-time with my husband and our 2 children. Now we've been in our tiny house for a little over a year and a half now, and over on our Instagram account we asked what you guys wanted to know about our composting toilet. So today I'll answer your questions first, and then at the end of the video I'll also run you through emptying the toilet. So stick around to see that. So when we designed our tiny house, we opted to go with a composting toilet instead of a traditional toilet. We don't need to have access to a sewer system, which is awesome. Plus it also doesn't use any water, which is great because we do harvest our own rainwater and we live in Queensland, Australia, which can be quite drought prone. Now, when we were looking at our options, we decided to go with the Separett Villa 9010. So it looks fairly similar to a traditional toilet, which we really wanted. It also has some great features in how the whole design actually works. So when you look at the toilet bowl itself, there's actually 2 separate compartments. So the front section is where you urinate, and that in our setup is diverted via a tube out into a urine pit that we have in the paddock, which is quite a distance away from the house. There's also options where you can hook it up to your grey water system, but as we use that to water our veggie garden, we didn't opt for that. There are some other designs that has this urine in a compartment on the toilet itself. Now, when we were doing some research, what we found is most people said that that compartment was quite small and had to be emptied fairly regularly. There's also risk of it overflowing. They said that the smell was quite overwhelming when they had to empty it and was generally an unpleasant experience. So we decided we didn't want to do that, and so we really enjoyed the design of this toilet for that reason. When you look into the toilet bowl, you'll see a blue section, which is a blue flap. Now this is where your solids are dispersed. Now when you're using the system, when you sit down, this flap will automatically open, and the bucket in which the solid waste is deposited into actually rotates a fraction. So this rotation means that you're not dispersing your solids into the same section, creating this magnificent tower of waste. It's rather dispersed quite evenly in the bucket. A flap also means when you open the toilet, you don't have to automatically see that waste there. And this also eliminates any bugs or flies getting in there as well, which is super helpful. Now this component of the system also has an exhaust fan that runs 24/7. Now what this does is it extracts any smell and any moisture from the bucket, which helps for it to decompose. This also means that we don't need to add any additional medium to that waste section to dry it out. So some other composting systems require that you add some sawdust or peat moss. This is something we don't have to do. So for us as a family of 4, where we have the children 5 nights a fortnight with us, we empty the toilet bucket every 2 to 3 weeks. Now this is actually more based around the bags that we use as opposed to how full the bucket is. So because we use fully compostable bags, we found that if we go over the 3-week period, then they become a bit more brittle and there is risk of them breaking. Now, we've never had any instances where the bag has broken while we're emptying it and that, our solid waste has gone everywhere, but it's definitely not something we would like to experience. So for that reason, we think the 2 to 3 week mark is quite good. So we run to a schedule rather than based on how full the bucket is. Also, we found as the bucket got more full, the rotation has started to slow down. So obviously the weight of it means it doesn't move as freely and it doesn't rotate as often, and it actually stops at one point. Also, the longer we wait, we found that there was a slight smell every now and then if we left it for too long. So yeah, the sweet spot really seems to be the 2 to 3 weeks. In regards to how long it takes before it becomes safe, usable compost, I believe it's a 12-month period that you have to wait at a minimum before you can use it. From that point, you can add it to trees like fruit trees and natives, but it's not recommended that you use it on your veggie patch where you'll have vegetables in direct contact with it that you would consume, because there is a very slight risk that there might be some pathogens in that could be transferred through to you and make you ill. In regards to where we dispose of our waste, in our current situation, we don't actually really have the space to be able to store that compost material for over a year to then be able to use it. So currently what we do is when we empty our waste, which will be in its bag, pop that in the bin, and that is collected and taken to the dump. Now that can be a little bit weird, maybe a bit taboo for some people, but if you think about it, we put soiled nappies into the general garbage every day anyway, so it's really no different, except we don't have the waste of the nappy. Now, before we went with the composting toilet, we did heaps of research, and everyone we listened to said that there was next to no smell, and if anything, it was an earthy smell and very rare. Now, I did not believe them, but I'm pleased to report that it is definitely true. So for the most part, there is no smell that we associate with the toilet. There have been instances where we have had some smell. So at one point, our urine diversion system got a bit clogged, so it wasn't draining as well. And we did have a little bit of urine smell with that, but once we cleared that, we haven't had any issues then. There's also been some instances where we think that the children may have gotten some urine into the back compartment, which has created a little bit of smell until there's been some time for that to be extracted, but that's been very minimal and has happened only on a few occasions. Like I did mention previously, sometimes if you let the waste container full up for a long period of time, so over that 3-week mark, yes, we have noticed a slight smell. Now, it's not a constant smell, and it's more like you just get a waft of it maybe when there's a breeze, and it isn't unbearable. It's a little bit earthy. Our toilet is vented through the side wall, so behind the toilet and out to the external area. Now, if you're standing directly behind that vent, especially on a hot or humid day, and saying that hasn't been emptied maybe for 2 weeks, there may be a smell directly from there. Again, very earthy, not overwhelming and not very strong, but definitely something that's present. When we designed our house, initially the toilet would have been sitting along the wall that our deck backs up onto. So we did flip the design, and I'm so glad that we did, because that smell would just be unpleasant when you're trying to entertain or have a barbecue. So if you are going to have a composting toilet, definitely take that into account. Now, there are options where you can have the exhaust extracted through the roof, but because our loft is above our toilet, that wasn't really an option for us. Having it out the side makes no difference to our current design anyway. Now, in regards to maintenance for the system, there's nothing major outside of having to empty the solid waste every 2 to 3 weeks. When we do that, we also clean the little filter that runs on the fan, just so it doesn't get too clogged up with dust and can work at its most efficient capacity. With that, we also, when we go to the toilet and urinate, we'll spray the front bowl with a little bit of water and vinegar solution. So 1 or 2 sprays of that, just to make sure that there's no urine just sitting on there going smelly or discoloring the bowl. We also will put down a cup of boiling water once a week in that urine system. Now, that's something that we only started doing after about a year of using the system, when we landed up having that system back up a little bit. And that was because the calcification and the minerals had caused a slight blockage. Having that boiling water, we found, flushes it, keeps it clear, also cleans the system really well. So we do that once a week. If we really want to deep clean, we might do some bicarb soda and vinegar to get the bubbling effect and give it a clean like that as well. But it's not necessary, it's just something extra that we might do every now and then. Outside of those items, there's obviously the general cleaning like you would have with a normal toilet. Spray the bowl down, spray the outside of it all, disinfect it and wipe it. But other than that, we don't do anything different in regards to maintenance. In regards to some drawbacks of having a composting toilet, there aren't many, and overall we really love the system. And if we can, we'll always use a composting toilet. But there are some negatives you should consider if you are thinking about using a composting toilet. So with this design, everyone needs to sit to use it, including males. So that's for urinating as well. Now, the way the bowl's designed, if you were to stand and try and urinate, there could be some splashback. It could go on the back compartment, which could cause some smell. And it would just be messy and unpleasant to have to clean. Other than that, it can be quite a daunting experience for your guests and friends and family to use the toilet for the first time. Now, to help in this, we have got a printable that we can give our guests if they need it. We do always run them through how to use the toilet when they arrive for the first time. I will also have that printable linked below if you'd like it, if you do have a composting toilet as well. But once they've used the toilet for the first time, generally we don't have any other issues. It's just, you know, you're being nervous, they're worried they're going to go in the wrong compartment. I was definitely like that when I first got the toilet. I was sitting really far forward if I needed to urinate, and really far back if I needed to use the back compartment, but really you just sit as normal, and it's designed so well that you don't have to move back and forth on the system to use each different compartment. The other issue is probably not a big one, but one worth noting. I know that when some people are sick, they might go and throw up in the toilet. Probably not so pleasant doing that in a composting toilet. We just use a bucket. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to go and empty the solids compartment and take you along with me to see how it's done. Here is our Separett Villa composting toilet. It is a waterless system and it diverts the urine separate from the solids. So lift the lid up here. We have the two compartments. At the rear here is where your solid waste would go and used toilet paper, and at the front is where you would put your urine. After using the urine system, you just give a few squirts of this water and vinegar solution just to keep the bowl sanitary. When you sit down, there is a little lever underneath here that's automatically activated to open the blue flap at the rear, so you don't have to see the solid waste when it's not in use. We will go through the process of emptying it. So to do that, you just lift up the back compartment here. The yellow tabs at the rear will hold this in place so you can do your work without that being in your way. We have our urine section here, so that connects to a pipe that diverts out to a urine pitch that we have at the rear of the tiny house. This here is the bucket where all the solids and toilet paper is collected. At the back down here is a vent that runs a fan 24/7, which helps with keeping the solids dry and extracts any smell. So we will now go through the process of how to empty it. Just going to do this up and out. We just undo the bag. The back split. I'm just going to cover that one up and then insert the new to lift it and shut. If you have any other questions, drop them down below and I will come back to you on that. If you'd like to see anything else, or if you have any other questions about our lifestyle and living tiny, let us know. Let us know what you'd like to see on this channel and we'll be happy to share our life and our experiences with you. So don't forget to like and subscribe. We love having your support and we look forward to sharing this with you. Thanks guys, see you next time. 7. So what? Bless you, Indy. Was better?